Shadow Coast here, and welcome to Disintegration. In this episode, we're going to be reviewing the game, and I'll be providing my thoughts having played through the single player campaign aspect. Off the bat, the game overall is unique in its genre. Effectively, it's a first person shooter combined with light, I guess you could argue, real time strategy, maybe. I'm not exactly sure how I would describe it. I like the concept. This is a game I was following. I did take advantage of the free weekend to play the game, and I did complete the campaign. From a main storyline point of view, there are 12 missions. They are varied. There is a backstory to it, although I will say one of my complaints with the game is they have decent character development and interaction, but the underlying background to the story needed more setup. I was a little bit confused about the premise, what's going on, why we're taking part in it. And while it's always good to have some sort of, call it, mystery, um, to play against and understand as a backdrop to kind of figure out as it goes. I would have liked a little more context. Now we're going to jump into a mission to outline the gameplay. So overall, initial thoughts, I'd give this about a 3 out of 5. It has the potential to be a 4 out of 5 if there was a little more story behind it. Or maybe 3.5 out of 5 if there was story behind it. But this is what I would argue is a mediocre game. There are some elements that I do like. So first, the concept of you commanding your troops from up above is really interesting. Effectively, we are Romer, the main protagonist, and we are a pilot, and we pilot what we call grav cycles, which allow us to fly around the battlefield. The grav cycles have different weapons, healing abilities, which is really cool. Now, very simplistic, and this is actually a complaint, although I like the idea they're going with here, is how we command our units. So effectively, we have a button that we click that can direct the units to either attack our target or tell them where to run to or interact with objects on our behalf. So an example of this is we can tell them to run in different directions. Now, one of my complaints here is that there is no way for us to really set up different units in different areas. So if I wanted my heavy to go out front and then set up some range behind, there's no way for me to do this. I'm effectively moving all of them together, which is a little bit overly simplistic, right? But again, the concept, look, I like it, just the execution. I'm not exactly sure how they could have teed it up. Now, one aspect that I actually do like is that each unit has its own, call it, special move that we can cycle through and tell them to do. So, for example, Seguin has a slowing ability, so he can drop a slowing grenade that slows down enemies. Doyle has a rocket barrage, which is pretty cool, um, and is helpful if you combine the two. Agnes, I think, has a concussive grenade. Same with Koki, and those are all very helpful when we take on the enemy. Now, the environment and graphics, I would argue, are pretty good. I did play on Epic. They could be a little better, but given the kind of pace of the game and moving and flying around, we wouldn't want to lose kind of the streamlined nature by having too many, um, too high-powered graphics since you are flying around. So we want to have a decent frame rate. So they actually balance it pretty nice, making the game look pretty without, spending too much on graphics. Um, yeah. So in the game, at least the main storyline campaign, you are gonna have different weapon loadouts. One thing that would be nice is if you could actually change the loadouts depending on the mission in the main campaign. You just have kind of fixed loadouts they give you. So sometimes you have healing abilities, sometimes you have rockets, sometimes you have machine guns. It kind of really depends. All right, so we're gonna throw some special. So we slowed them down. I actually liked how they comboed us being able to control um, the different abilities. But again, we can only kind of command them all at once, so we can move them all down there. They're all going to attack the target we outline. Um, so that's kind of challenging. Now we do have scan mode. By clicking a button, we can kind of scan around and see interactable objects. You do collect salvage. Salvage is basically experience that we use to upgrade. And I'm going to switch over to healing them. Yeah. So that's kind of the gameplay. Now, from a uh, kind of control perspective, we are in the grab cycle, so we kind of float around with our weapons, shooting them from above, commanding units, highlighting them. Again, interesting mechanics. I don't know. It just doesn't quite do it for me. I feel like it could have been done a little bit better and be a little more kind of polished. So net, I would give this a 3 out of 5. Look, I picked this game up on the free weekend to check it out. I do like it. I have been watching it, but I've been a little hesitant based off reviews. I would say I am still not, too hot on the game. I don't think I'd ever buy it full price. Now, the multiplayer aspect gets a little more interesting that I've checked out, and I'm not going to show that in this video, um, but maybe I'll post another video. It doesn't really change my recommendation. It still would be maybe a 3 out of 5 mediocre game. But it gets more interesting because you have higher levels of customization. You can actually control what weapons you're using, which is nice, and stuff like that. So check it out. It is a free weekend where we have a couple more days, early August here, and that's my overall kind of thoughts on it. Good, pretty good graphics. Decent storyline, although albeit kind of confusing. They could have spent a little more time teeing up what's going on, teeing up the universe we're kind of playing with in the situation. And combat, I would say, is just mediocre. It kind of wants to be a first person shooter. It kind of wants to have some real time strategy aspects to it. I don't think it hits either one like specifically really well. Just kind of okay across the board. Love the concept. Execution was just okay. Could use a little more work. Hopefully you found this helpful, and hopefully we see you in future videos. Thanks so much for watching. Shadow Coast out.